Hello, I've not done any videos for a while for several reasons. The bowstringer build was a bit of a fiasco, just working with the wrong kind of people who maybe don't have enough respect. I haven't really had much to show, but primarily I had an injury when I was 14 years old with my rotator cuff, and that's really begun to bother me. But that is the subject of this kind of review on this Nika, or I think they might be called Elong, but it's a Nika Ambidextrous 17-inch ILF Riser. The first thing I'll tell you about this riser is that it is a magnesium alloy. If it's even that, it's got that potted metal kind of feeling. It's very light, but they do not specify on the website. They don't tell you what the maximum limb weight is for this. I had to write in twice to receive an answer. Maybe the first time would have done with patience, but I really wanted to know and confirm that, and they said 55-pound limbs are the max. I honestly, and this is not disparaging to Nika, this might be perfectly fine with 55-pound limbs. I would not do that. The Samick Discovery that I've had and that you've seen many times if you've watched these videos, the minimum thickness of that riser at any point, I believe, is a ½ inch. I don't know if this is a full ½ inch. I haven't measured it with calipers, but the fact that it's not CNC machined, I would be wary of drawing 55 pounds with this. Now, the other important things to take note of are that this is a very minimal riser. It's $70 shipped all the way from China. It's a hell of a deal for something that doesn't break. But you have no lateral limb adjustments, and this is how I've been considering designing my bow. When I design my shelfless, ambidextrous, horsebow style CNC machine riser, I've been thinking to simplify things, I would eliminate the lateral limb adjustment. I don't use that. All I want is good alignment. However, it has to be very, very precise. If I produce a riser, I don't want any perceivable deviation from limb to limb. I want them to be as centered as possible. When I put on my Samick Discovery limbs, which I've overdrawed on, and they could be twisted, I detected a slight imperfection. It's probably the limbs. I'll have to put on a new set of limbs to confirm that. But what you should take note of is it has no lateral limb adjustments. It just has the dovetail, or whatever you call that, and the limb bolts. And out of the box, the limb bolts were fully secured, and it has a little bit of slop. So even if you fully tighten these, the limbs will rattle a bit. That's fine. If I can reduce the poundage and stress on this, that's a good thing. So it's kind of silly. It comes with what I presume is a codpiece or stabilizer. Tapping, I don't know why anyone would use that with this, but it's there. I don't know about the other features because I don't use a bow that way. I'm a minimalistic shooter, and again, what any viewer who has not watched videos on this channel before must take note of is I do not shoot Mediterranean. I almost never shoot Mediterranean. Sometimes I'll do it just for the hell of it, but that's 1 or 2 shots. I shoot, as a right-handed archer, I grab the bow with my left hand when I'm not injured, and I knock the arrow on the right side of the bow. I use my own made thumb rings, handmade from aluminum and bronze, and I typically use thumb draw, and the only exception is Slavic draw. I use Slavic, but both of those styles will knock the arrow on the right side of the bow if you're a right-handed archer. That's how I do it, and that might piss some people off, and some people will look at this and see me shooting in the next session of the video and think, oh, he's doing it wrong, he's being stupid. No, that's how I shoot, and that's the only way I'll ever shoot. So that being said, again, if this was CNC aluminum T60, I would grind these shelves off, and I think it would make a really cool little bow, especially for lighter poundage. I don't know if I'm missing anything. If I think of that, I'll mention it while I do some test shots. Another thing I'll show you, I don't know, maybe I'll make a separate video, is I made a custom bow rack. Initially, when I was building this, it was coming out really good, and I thought, this is going to be a nice piece. And I thought, I'm going to send this to Trophy Bow 1 in Finland if it comes out really nice. I'm not happy with it. It has too many imperfections. The detail on the horse heads are kind of questionable, but it's still pretty cool. Hey, if you watch this video and you want it, I will send it out to you. But it is all cherry wood, and I got lazy and finished it with boiled linseed. But it's made to you mount on the wall and you hang your bow on it. So I'll give you a closer look. So I intended to do horse heads, and the first thing that I think stands out is that it's kind of questionable. You don't know if it's a seahorse, some other kind of beast. It doesn't scream, these are horses. And the detail, what I found is that when autofocus is losing focus, auto-lose focus, they should call it, the detail gets tricky because it looks really good when it's rough, but then the fine sanding work to finish it removes details, so I had to keep going back over it. And my design was pretty amateur. I drilled and I poked through, accidentally being impatient and sloppy, and again, just not up to my standards to send to a really, really, serious horseback archer. But that's my cherry wood bow rack. I'll probably end up putting my Falco on it if I don't find someone who's really interested in this. Alright, that out of the way, I will get to testing this bow, and I will be testing it with my Samick limbs, which are the cheapest Samick Discovery limbs, and they're 45 pounds. And again, I had been drawing 55 pounds with those because of the overdraw with the thumb ring. And if this is the first time you're considering that, where you'd grab the string with Mediterranean is here. Look at how much farther back the thumb is. That translates to a draw that's farther back. And I've tried to make some adjustments so I'm not overstressing those limbs. 10 pounds over is too much. I think 6 pounds with a quality limbs is perfectly safe. There's no even drawing at the rated poundage is not perfectly safe, but for practical purposes. So I'm trying to get somewhere in the 46 or whether 45, trying to get around 50, 51 pounds of draw. But this, I'm going to have to be careful because with a 45 I could be pulling 55, and I still don't trust this yet for 55. But on to the test shots. Alright, I'll be taking these shots. I'll be practicing for these shots as a right-handed archer. Again, I got the bow to learn how to shoot left-handed because of my shoulder issues. This is what I call the SPH machined aluminum thumb ring. That stands for Stubborn and Patient Human, and that's handmade. It's not the prettiest ring I've ever made, but it works really well. It's a really nice ring. So again, this will be 45-pound limbs. I have the brace height set to 8 inches and 1/8. Now, when I had that string set for the Samick Discovery Riser, I had it set to go on the riser, or to be strung at, it was twisted to be approximately 8 inches. When I put that string, as it was twisted on this, it was 8 3/4, maybe closer to 9 inches. So I had to really untwist the string. So that's that angle variation there, and I have not measured that. I don't know exactly what it means. But that's the brace height, and here go the very first test shots. I shot some into the ground, but these will be my first target shots. What really stands out is that it's very, very lightweight. So lightweight, I just don't know what to think. What I can tell you right now is, again, if this thing is made to last and it doesn't break, I think it would be a really fantastic bow to have for lighter pounds. If you're using 30-pound limbs, or even 35 or less, I think this would be great to have for the price. Well, I'm definitely going high and to the right. And this is 20 yards. First time I've shot with a shelf for a long time. There we go. I think I'll get the hang of this soon enough. And I have a couple of mixed in arrows here. Ooh, that one moved along pretty quickly, but not so straight. Some of my nocks are a bit loose. Well, I wouldn't judge it based on this. It's gonna, I think with any new bow, even a really nice bow, it can take a while to acclimate to it. And once I warm up, I'll move out to a longer distance. There we go, that hit the dot. I think it's really quiet. That I do. All right. I'm going to aim for the bottom left. Close, just a bit to the right. And this is the last arrow in my Cocobolo quiver. All right, I think I'm warming up. So I'll go pull those and do another round, and then I'll jump out to try 30, maybe 40. Pretty cool. Again, if it doesn't break, I'll have no regrets buying this. For the price, it's pretty amazing. But will it break? I don't know if you can see those arrows, but I'll zoom in real quick so you can see how bad the shots were. I do not think that reflects anything on the riser. I will continue shooting until it just becomes silly, or until my shoulder goes out on me. And I have to say, I might have just become very depressed and abandoned archery. It's something I hope I don't ever have to do, but I might have if it wasn't for a guy, a member of this club. He's in his 70s, he's a compound shooter, but he is 100% ambidextrous at the same poundage. With his compound bow at 20 yards, he'll hit the X in the center consistently, left-handed or right-handed, and he's not using a light poundage bow either. And that was my inspiration. When I've talked to him about that a few times, I've seen him do it, he showed me how he does it, and that really inspired me, and I thought, well, it's not over. Just because my left shoulder is going out on me, and I can't afford $20,000 worth of surgery, I can do this. So, I will be training as a left-handed archer. And that guy, you should see it. There's just no difference. It's spot-on accuracy, every shot, right hand, left hand. It's going to take me a long time, especially jumping in with 45-pound limbs. That's just stupid, but until I can afford to get a cheaper pair of limbs, that's what I have to practice on. And I don't know why there are so many targets on that 20-yard. I'm not going to mess with them right now. I think I'll go for the bottom left. Certainly miss. Now, I am not used to this bulbous recurve grip. As far as bulbous, silly recurve grips go, this isn't really that bad. If I could, once again, I'd probably knock that down a bit with a grinder and just put on a nice leather grip. With the Samick Discovery, when you remove the grip, there's a it's angled, but it's reasonably straight. There's no tumor on the bottom. And with the custom multi-layered leather grip that I wet, soaked, hammered, and tapered, and then wrapped it with a finer piece of leather, it gives me a pretty good straightish grip. This is weird, so it's definitely throwing me off to have that bulge punching the bottom part of my palm. I'm going to put this aside. Alright, that's not bad. I think it just takes a little bit of patience and sensitivity to feel the differences that I'm not accustomed to. Oh, listen to me. That's not so bad. So my impression already, and I'm very confident in saying this, and I've always been right when I say something similar about a bow. At least with this setup, it has perfect potential for consistency accuracy, and once again for $70 for a lighter pound, it's a pretty damn good deal, and the ability to be able to shoot on either side. Some guys out there, they want a really fancy recurve, and you can't please them with anything. I admire simplicity, and having the option for ambidextrous use is pretty cool, and I don't really see how it compromises anything much. I don't even know what this thing is. Maybe that's for one of those floating rest things, elevated rest. Alright, that's not so bad. Here's an oddball arrow. Good center, just a bit high. Just outside of the white dot. Oh, that was bad. A couple of these arrows, as you might have seen from the last couple of videos, they wobble. And I don't know why. When I fletched them, I tried to do everything identically. Alright, so the way I hold this is definitely having a big effect. And that bulge, again, it really throws me off, but it's not the bow's fault at all. There we go. That was a decent center shot. And I'll probably keep saying it because it's so light. If a light bow appeals to you, it's a potato chip. It is really light, which is weird. I'm used to having the substantial weight of that. They use the 7000 series aluminum on that Samick riser. It's really light. Cool bow. I'll probably get 35-40 pound limbs for it when I get around to it. I'll pull these and move on to 30 yards. Alright, so I'll be going to the next target over, which is 30 yards. And got the Cocobolo Speed quiver. Has 2 belt clips on it, lever to retain the arrows, and it has become my favorite quiver. I'm glad I made that. I almost gave up on the design, but I adjusted the angle to go down a bit farther so it keeps the back of the arrows up. They don't fall out. It's a neat quiver made of Cocobolo wood. And I think I'll be going mostly for that bottom left target, since I'm more inclined to be shooting to the right with this than the left. close. Here's the wonky arrow again. Probably a little higher or low. Not so bad. That one really sunk. And it's been a little while since I've had time to shoot. And in case anyone's wondering, it's, I'll call it summer in Florida. It's a bit warm. So far, not so great. Yeah, I'm going way to the left. That one went really low, and I don't know if you could see that, probably not, but it spiraled all the way there. There we go. That one got just on the... Oh, I have one more. That one was just on the edge of the white dot. Sure. And that one hit the center. The wrong target. Alright, I'm going to just move on to 40 because this isn't super interesting. Okay, so I'll be going to the 40-yard target, which is the third bale, and see what I can do. I will probably be aiming for the white target to the left. Not too bad. And that one really spiraled. I think that was the last one that spiraled. I need to mark it, but for some reason I always forget. Well, those are pretty bad. Not being able to feel the arrow on my thumb is kind of weird. It elevates the knocking point slightly, having that shelf. But after this, I think once I get a feel for how the arrows are arching, I'll move on to the 50. To show you what you can do with this super featherweight Ambidextrous Riser. There we go. I could certainly take a bit more time and try harder, but I'm not really feeling very well today that I have time to do this. It's of interest to me. Alright, as it gets more interesting, we'll walk out there to see what happens. This is going to be pretty bad, but I think some people will forgive me for using a brand new bow and something I just don't have, style that I don't have a whole lot of practice behind. And you'll see some really bad shots. Keep in mind, this is not the bow. I think this bow is probably just as accurate as any other bow shooting off the shelf. Pretty wild stuff. 3, I'd say, reasonable shots for 40 yards. This, I wouldn't call that reasonable. The others, pretty bad. Now move on to 50 yards now. Alright, so this will be the 4th bail at 50 yards. And I'll probably aim for the bottom. Not so great. Yep, a bit low. They're kind of going all over the place. I'm going to put this one off to the side because I think that's a heavier arrow and it has 4-inch feathers. Yeah, I think it's doing really well. It's me, certainly today. Hi. That was wild. And my arm ain't feeling all that well either. It's not bad, but it's not comfortable. Okay. Again, I'll remind you, I'm having shoulder issues, I'm shaky and impatient. But as I move on, next one I'll go to the 60. You'll see what you can do with this little thing, and if it interests you, I cannot predict the future, so I don't know if it's going to snap and bash me in the face. But really, if that doesn't happen, I'm really happy with it. The price, $70 for a riser. But when I said that about the, oh wow, that's not very good. Okay, well I'll move on to the 60, but when I said if this bow lasts, it'll be a miracle and a really, really great deal about the deer seeker, Roland, it turned out it didn't last. It worked. The thing, it probably bends 25 degrees to one direction, one limb. So, all right, move on to 60 yards. All right, this is going to be 60 yards, and that'll be the 5th bail out, as a single target placed in the center. One thing I'll say that I think this is a good opportunity, because I've gained experience. It's been, I'll just call it 1 year now since I started archery. And there's a lot to learn, lots of things, nuances, principles, and now that I have some knowledge and some experience, I have this opportunity to learn all over again with supervision, because I'll be my own supervisor. I have enough knowledge now to know what to look out for, and it feels really weird shooting left-handed, especially with a 45-pound limbs that I'm not used to. I've got the strength to pull that times 3, but not the skill, not the technique. Now, I have no trouble pulling it back, but there's fine-tune adjustments that one can take for granted. I'll be able to pay attention to that. So in a way, I'm kind of interested in this, and maybe even happy to try it. So it'll be an interesting experience, learning again with myself as a semi-competent supervisor. So 60 yards. This is where I could start missing the target, or the nail. Man, I'm really shaky. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Got mosquitoes on my face. Some things to be distracted by. Alright, I'm gonna give up there. And if I do anything else, I'll probably go out to the 70, because it's working out surprisingly well. And whatever the brace height is, I must have selected a good one. And when you get into some of these cheaper bows and these Chinese companies, I really don't think they care. I don't think they care about the users. They're not bad, but they don't even specify a recommended brace height. But again, it's not being sold with limbs, so I can understand that. They definitely don't specify the poundage limit. Maybe they'll update that. For a bow that I'm not comfortable with on a bad day, 60 yards, this shows me that with practice, I'll be in here. I'll definitely be in here with practice, probably 2 weeks. But since I'm not going to be using my right hand to draw with, it's probably going to be a lot more than a few weeks before I get to that. So if you're interested just to see someone pushing this bow a bit with 45-pound limbs, probably being drawn closer to 55, I'll move on to the 70 if you're interested, and you can watch that, and then I'll be on my way. Okay, I'm going to fling a couple out to the 70. And I'm definitely starting to feel my shoulder, so this is a good time to think about stopping. Yeah, that one went low. Yeah, it's definitely one of those days. So I'll try to just say the last bit I have to say on the way to the 70, and you won't be impressed. Some might wonder, why do I want to shoot this way? And these are opinions that are subjective. I think the Olympic bow, you have a bow that's mimicking primitivity. It doesn't have moving parts and cams, and yet you have a big codpiece on the end of it. You've got a sight and this, that. And at that point, I just say, buy a 50 caliber BMG. There's no point. Just get a nice scope and be done with it. But, some people really enjoy that, and I have nothing against that. But I think some out there who understand, an ambidextrous style grip shooting the way you want. You feel the arrow on the thumb. To use a kind of slimy word, it's more intimate. I connect with the bow. It has a sense of freedom to it that I don't get with even a shelf. Compromises that, but I can get a lot of enjoyment out of using the bow with thumb release or Slavic, even with the shelf. It's still worth the effort. Now, grinding the shelf down makes a tremendous difference. That Samick Discovery that now has no shelf, I love it. And I've taken some amazing shots with it. 80 yards, 70 yards, 60 yards, 50 yards, tin cans at 50 yards. But it's a different style. Those who get it, get it. You've got, and it's not just Asian stuff, you have the English longbows, and I think they still knock Mediterranean, but you don't have a shelf. And pop this guy back on the pod. And if that's the way you shoot, it's the way you shoot, because it makes sense to you. I think if I didn't shoot that way, I'd just get a compound, because then it's direct. Compounds are reliable. You get a good one, you don't have to restring it for a long time. They can be incredibly accurate, and they're fast. They really move the arrows. So this style it just gratifies me. The thumb rings, that it's kind of weird. There's arguments whether it's a release aid or not. I don't find it detaches me from anything. I've thought about it quite a bit, but I'm pretty satisfied with that. When you get into the heavier poundages, leather is kind of harsh on the thumb. You're pulling back a 65-pound bow with just a piece of leather. I think the rings are more accurate than leather. I think if you had some kind of thumb of the gods, it would be ideal just to use a naked thumb. But for me, that's certainly not practical. But I really just love this style of shooting. I love the thumb ring. I really enjoy Slavic release, but knocking on that outside of the bow, the wrong side of the bow, and everything about it having symmetry in the grip, the ambidextrity, it's very appealing to me. So if you really want a cheap solution to experiment with that, or if you have a partner or a friend and you want to be able to change the limbs or just share the bow, and they're left-handed or you're left-handed and they're right-handed, it's a great option, and it's one of the only on the market. When I first started considering going to ILF, I searched and searched and searched, and just there's nothing out there. There's one guy, I think he's based in Texas. He was on, I think it was Shatterproof Archery, and he gave a kind of a seminar on bow speed. Really great, highly recommended. Maybe I'll put the link in the video. I think I've done that before. But this guy had a custom horsebow ILF riser made. It's beautiful. It's really short, so I don't know how well it would do with heavier poundages. And I think the limbs he had for it were custom made, probably by the same guy who made the riser. It's really nice, but they're not for sale. And if they were for sale, good luck on being able to afford it. So there's just, and the reason I choose ILF is most of your Asian bows, the Asiatic bows, a lot of them are from China. And those who really use them, you're going to have exceptions where people have had one for 5-10 years and they've lasted. But if you look at the amount of people who have issues with them, they're high. Even some of the more expensive bows, and that's going to be a potential with any bow, even if it's the best bow in the world. With ILF though, if you get comfortable with that riser and it's made of the right material, you can probably count on having that for the rest of your life. And if you have injuries, if you have strength gains, you can change the limbs. If you're pretty much limited to 3 different lengths, unless you did custom, but then you also have the option to use longbow limbs. The ILF system is underrated, but there's virtually zero attention on an ILF riser that's Asiatic style. And I think that's the sweet spot. If I ever get the funding and I stop being sick all the time, I'll start working on that ILF ambidextrous horsebow riser, and hopefully someone beats me to it. But for now, it's the Nika. That's all I could really find. And with this experience, you look at those shots, you say, oh, that's crap. It's not the bow. This bow, while it's not broken, functions really well. I don't even really see that much of a difference between that and my Samick Discovery, which is a $300 riser. I prefer the Samick. It's solid, but as far as the functionality of it, there's not a huge difference. And when I used to have the shelf on there and shot off the shelf, it's not that much different. It took me a long time to shoot off of the shelf using thumb release. So as it is, I recommend it. I'll put a link to that in the description as well. And certainly for lighter poundage, I recommend it. We've reserved this for the patient. So I'm going to take a couple shots using my left hand. Unfortunately, the quiver I made is not ambidextrous. This could be really odious. And again, there's things that you take for granted, such as knocking the arrow. And when I first started, it was an issue. When I would knock the arrow, getting the thumb in the ring, on the string, and gripping the arrow correctly, I had forgotten how long it took to get very proficient with that. Now I can do it with my eyes closed, it's smooth, but it took a while, and now I get to experience that all over again. Not actually bad, I was aiming for the center. But if you do this, and you decide to switch hands, if you can afford it, don't just jump to a heavier poundage. And 45's not heavy, but for just starting, it's pushing it. Nice. You know, that's pretty weird. It's pretty weird, but it's kind of cool. Yeah, that's going to take a long time, but I figured I'd include that so you could see the whole entire purpose behind this for me.